Welcome to the Wednesday night podcast for the SC Hub. My name is Munster Mash. I'm the regular host here, and joining me tonight, we've got Tourman and Statman Ricky. How's it going today, guys?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Munster.
Yeah, likewise. Ready to talk Supercoach.
And there is a hell of a lot to talk about. We thought these first 2 weeks have been crazy, but round three shaping up to, I guess, eclipse them all. So we might as well just get sort of stuck straight in. So first of all, I guess, give everybody a bit of an idea of what your history is with Supercoach.
I'll go, seeing I'm next window in. I played since day one. You can see with the grey hair, I actually predate Supercoach. I was playing the Daily Telegraph used to run a Dally M fantasy, where the points, your fantasy points, were allocated based on Dally M points. And you had to name your team and send it in via the old snail mail. You had to cut your team out from the newspaper and send it in. So I've been playing fantasy from day one and have won zip. But I love it. So, and I'm a mad Manly supporter. So that's my background.
Yeah, look, I've been playing since 2014, 2015. Probably didn't even take it too seriously at the start. Again, you're new to it, and obviously back then there wasn't really, I guess, those resources that there are now to, who's talking about who and the podcast and the YouTube videos and whatnot. So it was all a bit, I guess, hit and miss. And probably the best year I've had was 2022. I've managed to finish about 3,500. So that was, a milestone for me, considering pretty much every other year was 30 or 40,000. And yeah, so it's just, it's obviously having the hub's been a good help to everyone. Not just me, to everybody, but as I said, knowing, getting the advice and sort of, using that advice to, do I want to do it and do I not want to do it? So it's been a big help. And I'm an Eels fan, Eels diehard. So it's, not too bad so far.
Yeah. Well, look, as I guess we've both all hinted at, really, we're all suckers for Supercoach, and we're all, I would say, addicted pretty much. So we might as well get stuck in and have a good chat about it all. Look, we'll start off with a bit of the news. If in case anyone's not seen it, breaking, Payne Haas is gone. He's going to be out for a few weeks, going for minor surgery. It's going to be a dagger, as far as I can see, for about 1 in 3 Supercoaches. It's about 35% owned.
Yeah, as I said, it's just managed. Like, obviously, we thought, obviously there were those concerns. He went off in game. Obviously, last round, everyone's like, is he going to come back on? How bad is it? Came on and seemed to do okay, but obviously, the club's not taking any chances and wanting to get that surgery done to clean it up. And look, I've got Payne Haas. I guess it's probably, luckily, I've got my front row can probably make up the points that he has, that he would usually score, which is not a good thing. But yeah, obviously being out for 4 to 6 weeks is probably one of the first guys I'll trade out next week. So
yeah,
it's a bit of a dagger to those who sort of were trying to go set and forget front row and not have to trade. It's just one of the unlucky things. It was a good strategy, but yeah, the injury gods have just they've taken a few players out of a lot of sides. But yeah, people didn't want to make trades who brought in Payne Haas, I don't think, in front row. So yeah, look, but you make hay now. You see, what can I do?
Yeah. Now we are going to be diving into the most traded in and out today. I think that's probably the biggest way to sort of judge how people are going to be moving in round 3, because there's so many options. Some of the stats we'll obviously cover, I think, may be out of date come the start of games tomorrow. There's a lot of people that own Payne Haas. They're probably a fair chunk are going to have to move him on. So we'll get into that when we get into the talk for the trades. In the meantime, obviously there's a couple of Broncos out NRL news-wise leading into the Panthers game. So that's going to make things very, very interesting there. We've also got Helam Lukey, who is fairly heavily owned. He's gone for surgery as well this week, out for 6 to 8 weeks reportedly. And then we've also lost to the judiciary. Nikora, he's gone for 2 games after that nasty hit on the weekends. And Hughes and Francis Molo are both to cop to 1 game as well. Look, I'm not going to get into the talk about Hughes because as a Melbourne fan, I'm a bit dirty that he's not just copped the fine, because I just don't think there was any malice there in touching the ref. But I guess they just need to stay consistent with it now.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Yeah, it's pretty harsh. But yeah, I'm just going to let that one. Yeah, unlucky if you're a Hughes owner. I think it's his 2nd season in a row where he's actually been, if you'd have started with Hughes, he would have been one of the best calls to have made.
Yeah, he tends to go on runs at times. But anyway, look, we'll get into the trades that are, I guess, a bit more relevant, what people are here to listen to. Round 3 trades. How are you guys looking at what you want to do for round 3? I'm assuming you're about to make 1 million more trades after tonight, but how are you looking at it at the moment?
Statman, you go first.
Yeah, well, I was unfortunate. I started with Jacob Little, and obviously he has the concussion. Well, he was concussed. So I guess had one big knock. Everyone was like, "How is he not come off the field?" Then he got another one, and still stayed on the field. Sorry, came back afterwards because he miraculously passed the HIA, and now he has, I guess, lingering symptoms. So he's out. So that's probably been a big knock on me. So I've downgraded when Joey Lussick. I think it obviously seems to be one of the popular choices that's picked. The Helam Lukey injury bug got me as well. There was tossing up between Hosking and Curran. Curran is the guy I got in. I guess Curran's minutes have probably been inflated the last 2 weeks or so. People have said with a couple of injuries, but he seems to be the most productive Bulldogs forward. So at least maybe you can probably at least get a 50 or a 60 from him, hopefully. And obviously, Hosking was the other one that was there to get, but now we don't know how many minutes he'll play after being demoted to the bench as well. And yes, I managed to get in Terrell May as well. I think, again, thankfully I did, obviously, with the heart injury. And now at least he might have a prop that can at least get 50 points.
Yeah, mate, I think we're long lost cousins, Statman, because I also have the Liddell Lukey combo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was definitely concussed. I was surprised he stayed on. He threw some shockers from dummy half after that first concussion that went along the ground, missed targets. Lukey's just unlucky, as this is Super Coach, right? We've just had Harsh drop out. We've had others. So easy trades for me now. Liddell Lussick and Lukey via Jules to Terrell May. Easy trades. I have one difficult one, which I'm sure we're going to cover in detail in the trade out. So I have a certain Mr. Ponga, and I'll leave that discussion for later.
Look, I actually think we probably might as well just get stuck straight into it. So, look, at the moment, I'm one of the very, very few lucky ones that's, apart from the stuff like Lukey, I didn't have Payne Haas and a few others, but like many, and I would say probably most super coaches, it's making that difficult decision. Are you going to trade out Ponga? Are you not? So we'll cover quickly the top 5 trade outs at this moment. Number 1 is Helam Lukey. That obviously makes sense. But Ponga is number 2, followed by Ezra Mam, Danny Levi, and Payne Haas. So Payne Haas is obviously, I think, going to just keep climbing up that list, basically. But I think the others, they make a lot of sense to me based on the moves that are getting made, but we'll dive into that. But first, Ponga. I'm of the opinion that I think if you can use his money to make a proper move, then I support it. If not, I think there's a lot of other spot fires you might need to put out first.
Statman, you want to comment?
No, look,
do you have Ponga? Are you a Ponga owner?
I do have Ponga. And look, as I said, like it's there are a few fires like in my team to put out. Like obviously the big one was trying to find a prop. Well, I guess luckily in hindsight, maybe I predicted the future and Haas got injured and I got Tyrrell May and I don't know. So I kind of maybe like sidetracked my way out of that one, thank goodness. But yeah, it's like obviously, you know, when it came to Monday, I was like, oh, you know, Ponga's had 2 really poor weeks in what has been pretty poor performances from the Knights in general. So I was like, you know, do you go Ponga to Pappenhausen? Obviously, that seems to be a consensus sort of trade that people are doing. Obviously, you free up, what is it, 250, 300K. Obviously, downside is Pappenhausen and the Storm have the bye next week. So it's sort of you get him in for 1 week, have the bye, but then their run is not too bad. And then, yeah, sort of, you know, I guess you could go to Drinkwater if you wanted to as well. Like I know people sort of just stay with the, you know, go from one gun to one gun. I think at the moment, or I mean, at least for 1 more week, I'll keep him as I said because my trades went elsewhere, and then probably maybe after the Storm buy, I might reassess and sort of see where he's at. See can Ponga do any better in the next 1 or 2 weeks? Will it be a hold? But it's 50-50 for me at the moment when it comes to Ponga in terms of do I keep him or do I trade him out?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at it in the sense of, look, you've got to almost judge Ponga a little bit on how you think the Knights are going, because Ponga's not looked horrible, but the Knights have. The Knights have looked horrible. So I think a lot of it will also come down to, do you think that they can do any good against the Storm this weekend, do a decimated? Look, if there's going to be any time that Ponga can do it, hopefully it's against a weak Storm side at home.
Yeah, look, I'm a Ponga owner as well. I'm tearing what little hair I've got left out. He is in a terrible side, as you said. Cogger has got props from the Panthers grand final where he came in and straightened them up. And he should straighten the Knights up. But is it enough? Like, they have been awful. So I've got that in the back of my mind. I've got this, you know, I love making money in Supercoach, and you got Mulatalo on a huge negative BE up against a terrible West Tigers outfit. And I'm just like, wow, I can sell 892K, drop down to Mully at 627. You know, the dollars might just make it worthwhile. So there's that greed factor that's really pulling me in. And then I don't own Turbo, and I'm terrified of not owning Turbo. I've got away with it for 2 rounds. And I'm like, maybe I should just go straight Ponga to Turbo and just, you know, close the door on that, because it's only sheer luck that he hasn't turned up in the first 2 games. I feel like I could go any different direction, even to holding. Like the hold is also, you know, Knights can turn it around. They're at home. The fixtures open up. So, you know, I'm just scratching my head. I don't know what to do with this trade, or whether or no trade.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, well, how about this? I'll put to you guys what I'm thinking about doing with Ponga, and you can judge. I guess tell me what you think of it. So, at the moment, I am definitely boosting. I think with the way teams are shaped up, I think everyone's going to need to boost. So, I don't think we need to cover that too much. So I'm looking at going Ponga down to Tedesco, who I think has looked pretty good to begin with. And I think with Young on the wing, I think that gives him a good target for the Roosters right wing, which we've known has been good in the past. I'm going to go Drew Hutchinson up to Mulatalo and Heilum Luki down to Josh Curran.
They're good. Every trade, tick, tick, tick. I can't fault that.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I think I'm trying to weigh up is whether I go Luki to Curran or whether I go the straight risk and go to Fini Fuiaki, who, is obviously that bit cheaper and getting the start now on the edge where Luki's just left. So it's a bit of it. That's my only real conundrum, I think.
Okay, so let's talk about Curran versus Finuaki, because that's really what you've come down to. I can't fault the Teddy Mulatalo play. That's good. Obviously, you didn't have the other fires that Statman and I had in other positions, so you're able to do 2 moves there. What do you think, Statman? I personally on Curran, I think he's a really good buy, and I'm not put off by the injuries that have led to increased game time at all. I think he's a 55 to 60 minute player with a high base, and you're going to get 55 to 60 average out of him, and that's great. That's great purchasing for 420k.
Well, I just want to touch on that. I'm just going to jump in very quickly. I don't know how much Curran's played inflated minutes. If you look at the two games, he's been playing roughly 60. So that's kind of what I expected based on the state of the Dogs pack. So I don't know if that's a big thing. So that even makes me higher on him, basically.
You know, I mean, I only said the inflated minutes because it seemed to be all everyone was talking about. Oh, you got 60 minutes because the like Liam Knight went off in round 1, I think it was, or whatever, or so he played. But I mean, really, like you just said, it doesn't look like he has. But no, I think I'm on the Curran train. I do think Fini Fuiaki is a good young player, but I think Peyton has showed that Nanai is the guy that's going to get the 80 minutes when it comes to the edge. And because he's a younger player as well, does he trust him enough to play the 60 minutes that Lukey was, and then through the middle as well? Like Lukey played a bit through the middle and on the edge. So sort of you never know with a rookie and how much will a coach trust him. But yeah, Curran just seems like a guy like Toolman said, just sort of is good for a 55-60 score, has a good work rate, has an offload, is able to sort of, I guess, manipulate the play with his ball playing skills as well. So that's probably an added advantage over Fini Fuiaki.
Yeah, and they've obviously named the Goz on the bench for the Cowboys as well. So, and he's traditionally an edge player. So I think, I don't know if Fini Fuiaki is going to get much more than 60.
That would be my read as well. I think he's in for a 60-minute game. I also think you can wait a week on Fuiaki. And the reason why I like Curran over Fuiaki is, and even Kai Pearce-Paul, is I think it's worthwhile waiting one more week on both of them.
Yeah.
I want to see if the Knights turn it around. And if they do, Kai Pearce-Paul, I think, would be a really good buy, even at 380, 390. And there's some other cheapies in the 2RF on the horizon as well. We've got that Fainu from the Tigers. I know we got a pie, but there's only so many slots, and I can see some cheaper options or maybe some better options. And I'm going to wait a week on those options to just get one more week's worth of intel before I make that call.
Yeah, no, that's the way I'm looking at it as well. I don't know if Fini Fuiaki will actually even rise all that much, because if he's obviously played off the bench the first two games. So even though we may be a little bit more expensive, I think we do get that opportunity for another look.
Yeah, and also Piakura had that 4-pointer or whatever in round 1, and he's up against the Panthers without Haas and Reynolds. So he could drop, if it's a typical Panthers game, you could see him drop to a reasonable price option as well. So I don't think there's any shortage of mid-range, low to mid-range price, good, viable options at 2RF.
Yeah, and then we've obviously got players like Fermor playing their third game next week because of the bye last week. So I think there's still, plenty of options there, as you've said. So one other thing I was looking at today, and I haven't seen it mentioned so far, but I may have just missed it, is that we've obviously, a lot of people have got Ben Trebojevic. Now, he's someone that has obviously got that duel. So I guess want to put it out there. If you can swing Ben Turbo or Burbo around, you can then also use a Lukey to a CTW. I don't think that's the worst option either.
That's my structure. I started with that structure. I started with a gun 2RF, Smithies and Burbo as my 2RF starting. And I loaded up in the center. And so I'm a big fan of going for high upside centers. So I like that move.
No, it makes sense. Obviously, we know how valuable duels can be in this game. So yeah, if someone can swing that and get a Mulitalo or Lomax, any one of those players that we expect to produce points on a regular basis, particularly with good draws, it's definitely an option to consider. Yeah.
Now, I want to dive into what is the next biggest trade that I think is potentially, we didn't have the Haas news, would be the biggest topic this week after Ponga, and that's whether or not you trade Levi to Lussick. I've chosen not to do it because I'm making up my money other ways. What are you guys looking at? What do you guys think about it?
Statman, you can go. I've got an opinion, but I want to hear yours.
Well, I mean, I started with Little and Levi initially, so obviously I had Levi there, and I guess had Little not suffered that concussion last week, it maybe would have been something that came into my considerations. But obviously, I think I'm not confident starting Levi. Like, obviously, he scored the try on the weekend, but his base was like 20, which is just not good at all. So it's I think in the end I was almost forced to get Lussick in, but at the expense of Little, obviously given his concussion. So I guess for me, it's almost moot, seeing as like I didn't do the Levi to Lussick trade, but Levi really only stays in my team now out of, I guess, because Little got injured. Not so much that I want him there. It's just a case of he has to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same combo as Statman. Like I said, we're cousins, obviously. So before the Liddell out, the Lussick trade was a luxury trade for me, but I actually think it's who you have as your other hooker dependent. So if you've got a Brandon Smith or a Liddell, it's easy. You just go straight down to Lussick. If you've got a Harry Grant, a Grant Levi combo, I've seen some coaches go Grant all the way down to Lussick and then bring in two guns. And, I know you give up, but you're losing Grant for one round and into a bye. And then, I've seen what they've done with the other two trades, and it's pretty impressive what you can do with that money, that, that 400 and so K. So I think it's very team specific. Yeah. I don't mind it. I think Lussick, he surprised me. I thought he was a plotter, and he's come out in the first two games with good attacking plays, and so I've been pleasantly surprised. I actually think if you don't have a trade, I think I'd still make that move, right? Because I think Lussick's going to make an easy, at least 150, and I think that's the benchmark for a trade, right? I think he's going to make that, but he could make more. And if you can hold him all the way through, he plays the first bye round, doesn't he?
I'm actually not 100% certain, but I believe.
I think the Eels play the first bye. Yeah. So look, you can go either way. You can hold him or upgrade him, down the line.
Yeah. Now, before I guess we dive into too much conversation, I do want to stick up for you a bit, Statman. Now, you and Ant have basically been, in my opinion, completely nailed what the situation was with Lussick, and have done so since before round one. So anybody that's, I guess, trying to say that you did not get it, I think they're wrong. No, I definitely think that you've nailed it.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously Ant's not here, but I'm sure I speak for him. Like, we weren't. I think people felt like we were saying that kind of like to, like big note ourselves in some way, like, we heard this, we heard that, etc. But I think it was very obvious from the first things that Brad Arthur said, literally back in, I think that was even in December last year when he said that, when the interview with Paul Crawley, where he said, how do you value the hooker position? And Brad Arthur said, look, well, we obviously got Hands in. Hands had to play last year out of necessity, because obviously, there was nobody else to play hooker. And then Lussick came in at the back end of the year, obviously then took the starting role over. And people didn't realize that Hands obviously came from Penrith, but he was a halfback first and foremost. He's played halves his entire career. So we know that, yes, you're defending the halves, but playing through the middle is the most difficult thing you're going to do in the game, especially as a hooker. Chances are you make the most tackles. You have to control the ruck both in attack and in defense. And so, when Brad Arthur said, "Oh, look, I want to see more defensively from Hands," seeing as he was only in the position for 3-4 months, it made sense to sort of go, okay, yes, he may play on the bench, but he's not there as a hooker. He's there as just a utility, given that he played in the halves before. So I think people were like, but it's going to be 2 hookers, and he's going to take minutes and etc. And we just kept, beating the same drum, I guess, saying, "No, look, that's not what that's not what it's going to be. He might be there." And what we saw in game one, round one or round two, he played 15 minutes, and that was really I think it was round one. He played like 15 minutes when the game was pretty much done and dusted. Probably just to say, "Hey, Joey, have a rest. Here's Brendan to give you some cover." So it was quite obvious, based on what Brad Arthur said, and then even seeing the training bits and hearing about guys that have gone to training and then telling you, look, Lussick is number one, Hand is wearing the orange jersey in the the second team. So it was, look, I wasn't there to try and big note it. I was just passing on that info that was there, and look, it came to fruition. If it didn't, I would have said, hey, okay, we were wrong, but it worked out, and Lussick is the number one hooker.
Yeah, well, the way I see it is that the 15 minutes that he played in round one is pretty much part and parcel of what you'd expect from a bench utility. So
that's it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, sorry to Munster.
No, it's all good.
Obviously, I said, he was there as a utility. So if Moses or Dylan Brown had gotten injured, Hands would have gone straight in, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And we even saw, I think there was one point in round 2 against Penrith, Hands came on and Joey Lussick was still on the field. So Hands was almost playing like that roving lock, like you expect, like a Connor Watson sort of role. So it was never, Lussick's spot was never in doubt. It was just how was Hands going to fit into the side as a utility, not as a hooker.
Yeah. Yep, spot on. So anyway, I guess we'll get back to the discussion of trades at hand.
Oh, good.
So I guess, we know that Lussick is, probably going to make one of the most, if not the highest price rise this week. For people that are on the fence, would you say that it should be a priority trade or not?
If it's Levi, yes. Oh, sorry, not priority. Sorry, not priority. Not a priority. Third trade.
Yep.
Yeah, not a priority. I think if you have other fires to put out, obviously, your Lukey's and Hoskins now and Payne Haas, maybe you can maybe get away with it. But I think, given that he's now guaranteed to play 80 minutes and his base is probably sitting at about a 40 minimum, and then obviously if he gets a couple of attacking stats, that goes up to 80 odd like it did this past week. So it's again like Torment says, wouldn't be priority, but probably a third trade if you want him to boost and get him in is the way to go.
Yeah, if I'm sitting on Grant Levi and I'm not dropping Grant all the way down, I think it's a good trade for that buy. Levi's got a 9 in him. We saw, he's got a 10-pointer in him. And it's, it would be exactly what would happen if you go, no, I'm going to skip Lussick. And then and you got Grant, and in Grant's buy, Levi drops a 9. You could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Then you could have had Lussick, who's a solid 40, 45.
Yeah, that's a time bomb that may be in my future because I do have the Harry Grant Levi combination. So I'm kind of happy to leave it and address it potentially next week. And we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, it's I guess we'll dive into it a bit. So the top 5 traded in. Number 1 on that list is Joey Lussick. He's currently traded in by 14.2% of super coaches, which is humongous, absolutely huge. And I think that it might be a little bit too high. Let's face it, if we say Danny Levi's probably going to make in the ballpark of 90K, by projections, it looks like Levi will probably make about 40. So that's the way I'm looking at it with my other trades, is we know Mulatalo's also going to probably make a bunch of money. So that's where I've, I guess, played it out in my mind, is I still think I'm making equal dollars across the board with my other trades. So, I mean, whether or not Levi comes back to bite me in the butt, we shall see. So on to the other trades that are most traded in is Terrell May, who we have touched on. I think from what everybody's seen, it's pretty obvious why he's coming in with the Payne Haas news. Number 3 is currently still Zach Hosking. Now, he's obviously been great the first 2 weeks, but he's now on the bench for the Raiders, I should say. What do you guys see as, I guess, the shakeout of that Raiders pack, because it is getting to look really congested?
It's just, I mean, and to the heart thing is it's Ricky Stewart. Like, he can throw a curveball any minute. Like, we just don't know. I mean, like we saw last year, there were games that Tarpany was playing 40 minutes, or he'd come on, he'd go off after 30 and come back with the last 15 minutes. So you just don't know what he's going to do. But I think it's hard because you obviously you want that defensive presence in the middle, and Morgan Smith is just a tackle bot. Like, he just, more like he'll make 2, 3, 4 tackles in a set, shore the middle up. So obviously, if you take him off, there's not really any other, I guess, defensive bot like he is in there. But it's too hard to predict. Like, I think he probably gets maybe 40, 50 minutes max, but it's just a question of, do you play him through the middle even? I guess if you want to give Tarpany and Paps a rest as well, obviously Gawler and Saul and Pasami Saulo are not, household names, but do their minutes drop? It's too hard to predict.
Yeah, I don't have any faith predicting what Ricky's going to do.
Yeah, I think we can guarantee he's definitely not getting 80, but he could start. So who knows? So maybe I shouldn't have even said that. The minus break even is still huge. So a few people are still dipping their toe in the Hosking waters, and it's maybe something we need to keep on our toes for team lists. But he originally was in my trade plans, but he's gone. Now, named on the bench with Whitehead back. He's gone. Even with the big negative break even, it could be. It could be if he comes on and gets limited minutes, or comes on and gets HIA'd, you could be looking at 30 grand and a problem down the line. And I've got enough problems without dealing with that one.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Look, as you sort of mentioned, he does have a giant negative break even. So I think if you still want to go there and have somewhat faith that he might play, 50 plus minutes, if not more, in that sort of almost, we'll say Josh Curran role. If that's the way you feel, go for it. But I think you do need to have a plan to get out in a couple of weeks. Yeah,
and I just think there's much better alternatives with low BEs, especially if you can swing duels to get Mulatalo or any of the Sharks. I'd even look at Talakai. Teague Walton also has a reasonable break even as well. So I think they're all good alternatives to a Hosking. And Teague and those others are going to get 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the topic of Mulatalo, he is the 5th most traded in at the moment. And the one above him is everybody's favourite 5'8", Luke Brooks, who I will have to say he's looked very impressive so far.
As a Manly fan, sorry, you guessed that, man. No, you go.
Well, no doubt. Like, obviously, you'd be chuffed, Tool Man, with how he's gone the first 2 weeks. Obviously, I guess maybe gives Manly something they haven't had in a while. Sort of just a bloke who can take some pressure off DCE and just control one side of the field, and let's Daly do what he wants to do. And I guess a bonus for Brooks is he is on Turbo's favoured side, that being the left-hand side, obviously with Ben Trebojevic on that side as well. So, I think if that combination comes together over the next few weeks, could certainly be something to watch. And I guess Luke Brooks becomes a guy that, rather than being maybe you have him as your 5'8", you definitely have him in there compared to a Brown or a Munster when money's fully fit again.
Yeah.
So I've got a take on Manly. I think Brooks has been a great upgrade for Manly. We've coming from Cooper Johns and Jacob Arthur in that 5'8" spot to Luke Brooks, who I know who was panned at the Tigers, but it's light years between them. I think Nathan Brown's leg speed has also been huge for them when he comes on. And so now Manly's got a lot of pace on their plays. and they've got threats everywhere, right? You've got Brooks who can pass, run. He then throws they can play short to Burbo or Ola, and then they can go out the back to Turbo. And on the sides, they've got Cooler and Saab when he was fit. So there's a lot of pace in this side, which is really going to stress defences. And my take is, though, is I think they're going to share the points across the board. And that's one of my things on Brooks. I think he will average what he's priced at. And I think he's going to have a good game. But I also think he's going to get a 40. And I just think you're going to get what he's at. So I think he's reasonable. He might be 5 points unders, but I think that's not what I'm after. So, it's a theory. Whether it proves out to be true or not, I'm not sure. I just think, this is one of the things about Turbo. I think he is going to get a monster score. But I don't know if they're going to be as frequent as the COVID season. And I think it's going to be, and Ola's another one I'm sort of really interested in. I think he's the best Manly asset actually to own out of all of them.
It's that leads us a little bit to one of our YouTube questions that's already come in from Shandor. He's looking to get in Ola Kuatu. So we might have a quick chat about him. Look, if you've got the cash to upgrade, say, a Lukey to Ola Kuatu, I think it's a great move.
Absolutely, yeah. We know what he can do. Obviously, he's easily top 3, top 4 back rows in the game without question. So I think, if that cash is there, go for it. Yeah.
I'll readily admit I was a little bit down on Ola Kuatu to begin with, only because I figured he was a little bit overpriced based on the way he ended last year. And because I owned Ola Kuatu last year and I loved it. So I thought he was a little bit overs to begin with, but he's obviously looking like he's taking that next step up and going up that next gear.
Yeah, I think, as I just said, I think the Brooks speed out the back makes Ola a great option. And the other thing I noticed watching Manly is they love playing 3-on-3, 4-on-4 short sides. And, if you've only got 4 defenders and you hit Ola short, it's going to be hard. You're going to be hard pressed to stop this guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
Very much so. So I think that's 3 ticks across the board for if you've got the money and you can do it. Yeah, Ola Kuatu, great move. All right. I guess that comes into another bit that I wanted to touch on. Do you guys have any, pods or moves that you think could work for somebody that's maybe looking to zag a bit when everyone else is zigging?
Well, I haven't really zagged much from what I can see. I mean, it's as I said, I think I had too many fires to put out to really worry about too many zags. Yeah. But it's a tough one. I was of the opinion from round 1 that Kaipi's Paul was going to be probably a guy that you could have and hold on to, because obviously I watched a fair bit of him playing in England, and he had very early comparisons to a Sonny Bill, sort of a bigger back row, but could cover lock if you need him to. Big wingspan, able to offload, hard to tackle. So, again, as I said, I have too many fires to put out. But I think if I was going to throw any sort of pod out there, I think Pierce Paul could be an option, particularly, as I said, as Tourmay mentioned earlier. Now without Coggers there to hopefully control the game a bit more and just let Ponga run free. So on that left-hand side, who knows what can happen?
I think there's definitely options, especially I see the crowd going to Mulatalo.
Yeah.
He's not the only Sharks player in the back line who can score. So I see anti-podding the pod move, right, which could be going a Talakai or a Ramian or a S-Cat. As all really good viable options. You can only have one, and who's to say that, S-Cat doesn't get a hat-trick on the right wing, or Ramian doesn't get a hat-trick, or Talakai or West are that bad that it doesn't need to get to the winger, right? And Talakai goes over. So you don't have to go Mulatalo over those other there's 3 other good options in that Sharks back line. I think are all viable plays.
Yeah, you've stolen exactly what I was going to say there, Toolman.
Okay, sorry, mate.
No, it's all good. Look, it's especially for people that are, we'll say, stretching the cash this week, or they're looking at what moves they can make. Like the fact that a couple of these Sharks' other backline players are a little bit cheaper, it might mean that you can maybe make some other moves. Like maybe you can go up instead of down with Lukey. It's that kind of thing that I think people really need to look at in a way of what works for their team this week. So instead, I'm going to, I guess, reiterate what was mentioned earlier. Look at your duels and see what you can do that might not be immediately obvious. So as an example, moving Burbo up to second row and grabbing a CT dub. Maybe, as you mentioned, Toolman, moving somebody from, like, say, somebody that's a dual fullback into your fullback role for 1 week or 2 weeks and grabbing somebody like a Mulatalo for Ponga. I think that's a way that you can, while you're not being different, it's different enough for your team compared to what everyone else is doing. So it's still a bit of a pod move.
Yeah, exactly. And I've mentioned Teague also in the back row as an option there. I'm just looking, I think that the Dogs-Titans game, there's got to be points in that game.
Yeah.
So, you could go left field there. Like Tino could get Haas owners going to Tino. That could be the play. So, stick with your prime, your prime heavy hitter there. Tino's always a good chance for a try. I'm trying to think who else. None of the rest of the Gold Coast back line.
Yeah. Hell, even like for people looking to replace Lukey, Fermor, I know he's sort of gone a little bit off, I guess, the radar a little bit because of the bye, but he might be someone that's worth taking a punt on for that game.
Oh, I know what you're saying. I just, with Fafita to come back and not knowing what side he's going to be on. If you got Fermor, obviously you're holding it for the Dogs, but I'm not sure I'd be bringing in Fermor. If I knew Jaden Campbell was out for longer, I would seriously contemplate Ponga to Kinney and bulk bank massive cash. But I just don't know when Jaden Campbell's coming back, so I'm just not going to do that. I'm trying to see other matchups.
I guess probably another option with the Haas as well is, of course, that's if you really wanted to go down and save some money. Obviously, Liam Henry at the Panthers probably going to get a few more minutes as well with Fisher Harris out. So if someone, as I said, wanted to, bank 500K give or take with going. I mean, you wouldn't go down that low most likely, but he's certainly, I reckon if you probably don't have him already, he's a good guy to have while Fisher Harris still is out and or is uncertain, because he's likely to take some of those minutes. So probably, even if he's like a Sam Hughes, even to a Liam Henry, sort of, Henry seems to be a guy that Cleary likes. So that's probably another one to consider.
Yeah, and he's probably not the worst one. If, say, you need like a 17th player and you're sort of weighing up, I think Liam Henry's probably not the worst option for that at the moment, because he is looking like he's going to get the minutes. He's got a decent PPM, so not the worst shout, I don't think.
Yeah, I did that move last week. I brought in Henry. I brought in Henry and played him as my FRF2, and when he dropped that Cleary, when he dropped that grubber, but anyway, I agree. That's, I made the exact same play. He's going to get 30, 35 and score. That's what he's going to average. But I was happy with that for 238K.
All right. We've had another call from the comments, and I actually quite like it. So as a bit of a slight pod for CT Dub is, grabbing Val Holmes.
I already have him. So, tick from me.
Again, look, probably too many fires that I had to put out to consider him. But, as I said, his first 2 rounds look great. Obviously, we've seen what he's done in the past as well. He kicks goals, his big body, gets busts, gets offloads, is pretty much always there or thereabouts when it comes to those attacking raids that they make down his side. So, if you got him, great. If you want to get him in instead of Mulatalo, that's a good option as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
sorry, I'm just saying, just on Holmes, he had the worst game last week and scored 54. He dropped it. He was terrible and scored 54. Yeah. So wait till he's good. And I think that's what people are seeing who are bringing him in.
Yeah, I think he's onwards and upwards for Holmes. That could very well be his lowest score all year. We know that he's got that capability. So we've had another question here from Haggy that we've basically just covered. Thoughts on dropping Ponga, move Torpiki to fullback and get in Mulatalo. We've just said I think that's a decent pod move. Like obviously we've got to wait and see a little bit what Chance is going to do over the next couple of weeks. But it looks like, as long as you've kind of got a bit of, I guess, an exit plan for Torpiki, I'm all aboard. I'm happy. I think that's a good move.
So I'm considering exactly that. And my exit plan is actually a longer one to get back to a gun fullback. I'm going to go Hammer next week.
I like it.
And then I've got interchangeability between Torpiki and Hammer. So that's in my thoughts as well.
Yeah, we obviously had a quick chat just off air. I am eyeing up the Hammer for next week. So I think that's something else that you could almost consider, I guess, a pod move is, remembering that somebody like the Hammer's on the bye this week. So maybe you hold Ponga this week and grab him next week or something like that. That's still an option as well. So I guess, just look to see what's best for your team. And I think try to block out, I guess the thing I can say is, block out the noise from too many people saying stuff. I know I was saying this as we're talking. But
how much FOMO is there, right? There's so much FOMO. Mulatalo versus West with huge break even, people jumping left, right, and centre to Holmes, guns everywhere. That's all you see on the Discord chat. And you're just like, oh, man, I'm bringing in Josh Curran, right? It's sort of, right? But, yeah, exactly. I agree with what you say. Play your own game. Try and just look at what's best for your team and where does your team need points, right? You may be struggling in a certain position. So make sure you shore that up first rather than go chasing the rainbows.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So,
and then hopefully by shoring things up, you get the rainbows anyway. So that's what we're all hoping.
Oh, look, I threw Curran's name out. I think he's a really good pick. So he probably wasn't a good one, but there's like with the Lussick move, right? The Levi to Lussick move, maybe it's probably one like that you'd be going, oh, I could be doing something a lot, high upside. I think it's to do with coach's preference, how they want to play. Like lots of people like to build value and it's a long season. That's why I think Curran's really good for those who are patient, build value.
Yeah.
And I'll wait for things to fall out and everyone else is running around chasing these high upside guys. They're roller coasters, so it may not work for them and you just steadily but surely pass them on the race to the end.
That's exactly right. Now, we've also had another comment come in. So I put out a shout into the Discord earlier today to get it, see if there's any questions, and we did get one through. Richard Gearballs. I'm not sure how to Gearballs. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one. Is considering going Dill Brown to Brooks if it gets him another player. In that case, I don't mind it. If you don't have other fires to put out, as I guess we've touched on a lot, I think a lot of people will have other trades they probably need to make as more of a priority. But if it's to get from one player and potentially get you a second good player, I'm happy. I'm happy for you to do it if it suits your team.
Luxury for me.
It is a luxury trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, I guess as an Eels fan, I think the Dylan Brown is only going to get better. I think like we've seen, he said he wants to be better. Brad Arthur expects that he's going to be better, especially now that Lane is back as well. Those two are going to only get better as the season goes on. So I think, as Toolman said, if you have no fires to put out and you want to save some money, it's a luxury. But I think Dylan Brown is probably, maybe apart from Munster when he's fit and firing again, it's probably one of those only 2 5/8 guys that you just hold for the season because you know that his base on most days it probably matches most front row forward like FR2s. sort of thing. So it's that's how I look at it.
Yeah,
I can see why. I can see why he's probably, he's probably looking around his side, going, "Where can I raise funds?"
Yeah.
So I can see why, but I'm looking to trade Dylan Brown in 4 or 5 rounds. So going the exact opposite way. And yeah, look, I think I'm with you, Munster. If it's a really good trade, that other trade, I'll back him in. But if it's marginal, that's 2 trades you're making. You might want those 2 trades later.
Yeah, and I guess that leads on to something that I will always stand really steadfastly behind, is always back your gut with these kind of trades, because as you mentioned, people get FOMO, they'll chase last week's points, but do what's best for your team. And if you are high on a player and you feel like it's a good way to go, stick to it, because the worst thing is going, I should have done this, I should have done that, and then I was going to do it but didn't because somebody talked me out of it, and it's just the worst feeling in Supercoach.
Yeah, it's this, what we're missing is this X factor player. It's probably good he didn't mention it, right? Because that could be the gut feel guy that Gerbils is after. So, we'll just go with that. Back your gut.
Yeah. And I guess that also leads into that thing of you spoke there, you're looking to get in Dylan Brown. Now, obviously, he's going to be really valuable come the buys and as we sort of move in towards the season. And I think that's something everyone should also probably keep an eye on, is that it'll be 3-4 weeks and then we're starting to look at buy planning. It's not as far away as people feel, yet it also feels like it's a mile away. I think it's best, not even necessarily going for the buys, but have a look to see where some of the draws turn, because we do have a few of these, I guess, like better teams, like a Panthers. We know that after the buy, their draw opens up pretty well. So it might also be, keep an eye on that when you're making your trades.
Oh, that's great. I've already got a round 13 team. I've looked at all the draw, who's playing who, which Origin players will be out, and made what I think is my ideal 13, and I'm going to work towards that over these rounds. And Dylan Brown is my target 5/8. But I also agree with the fixtures. There is some fixture turns for some. The Broncos definitely open right up after about round 5, round 6. So, and also the Knights. So they're players that I've got on my radar to bring in. It's we're all playing week by week, but it's also good to think about who should I bring in, and because some of these players, even though it's early season, you could get stuck with them for the entire season. So each decision is pretty important.
No, that's it. I think as well, sort of, even when the draw comes out, you're already sort of like starting to sort of build an idea of who does have the buys and how you can sort of manipulate your side to, I guess, manage the buys successfully, rather than just get all the best players in. And then when you do that, you end up having 13 blokes playing Origin type thing. So it's sort of, even from the start, it says you're already there trying to have a look. And as I said, like when I saw that Dylan Brown played by 1, initially I was like, oh, may as well get him in straight away. He's already, we know what he can do. He's already there. And then sort of much like other players, like Toolman said, you sort of already have an idea of sort of where you want to go, what you want to do. And it almost makes it easier in a way just to, manage your side without having to worry about when it gets to round 11 or 12, and as you got 10 blokes you got to get at, but obviously you can only take out 3. So I think the earlier you can start sort of planning for that, the better off you are.
Yeah, it was a harsh lesson for me, Stat Man. I got burnt big time round 13 last year. I didn't own Manu. I didn't have Tapane. I didn't have Drinkwater, and I was inside the top 1,000, and that was it. That was my season was done from that point on.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things. My off season, be ready for round 13 this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and I guess just to put a bit of a tie and a bow on, our discussions for tonight. I think you've touched there. The Knights draw does get pretty good in the next few weeks. So for those looking to trade out Ponga, do you want him back in? You got to ask yourself that. I think that's something that's really important. Is do you trade him out, get somebody for a few weeks, bring him back in? That might also shape your trade plans, because maybe that's what you do is you go to Mulatalo now, make whatever much money, and then it might be a straight swap back in 3 weeks' time because him and Ponga are the same price. You just don't know. But it could be something that could be a viable way to go. You just got to weigh it up with what works best for your team.
Yeah, you've outlined the strategy I'm going to take, which is I'm going to sell Ponga, recycle it into low break-even, high upside players, bring in another money in Hammer, and then recycle that money back to a Ponga and upgrade my 2RF at the same time. That's the plan. Whether it all plays out that way, who knows?
Yeah, we'll wait and see, I guess. And I think that just about wraps us up for tonight. I think we've pretty much covered all of the big topics for this week. We've talked about, I guess, the way that we're looking at it for trades-wise and what we think people should do. I guess the headline, look at your team, do what's best for your team, and back your gut.
Great.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
All right. Oh, actually, I guess just before we head off, though, we'll cover one last bit for strategy. Captains and vice captains, what are you looking at?
I think the obvious choice is Hines against the Tigers, but I guess it's a question of, do you want to VC him? And I guess, Turbo is always an option. And I know, obviously, with Talangi, they're playing for Para. He's a good kid. All Eels fans rate him, but first grade is different to reserve grade. Yeah. How do Turbo and Manly manipulate that? I mean, yeah, again, like Ponga against the weakened Storm. What do you do? But yeah, I think Hines makes the most sense. But again, you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few people talk up potentially even going like a VC on Cleary as well, which would obviously rule that out. I think there's actually quite a few options this week. So yeah, I'm probably going to play it safe and stick with the captaincy on Hines personally, and then put a VC on somebody with high upside. If I get tempted by Cleary, though, there's a chance I could go VC Cleary and might actually go really sail to the wind, captaincy on Mulatalo.
Okay. All right. I love it. I'll see you at rank
not,
1.
Maybe.
I'll see you. You'll be leaving 80. What rank were you?
About 70,000 at the moment.
You'll be like Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
You'll be racing up. Look. I think early season, I think there is opportunities to go differential. It'll all settle down, and we'll all sort of know who to target. I've had C locked on Hines since I watched the Tigers play.
Yeah.
They were bloody awful. But now, typical me, I'm now worrying that there's going to be a random West Wall show up. But I just can't. I've got Hines C. West are awful. So that's where I'm going. But I do have Drinkwater VC into Hines C. Obviously,
I like that a lot.
And I do have a Ponga move, but it's not to one of the Sharks players, and I'm not going to say who it is. I'll just leave it as a teaser. Who is a very high upside player who I may VC into Hines. So that's my current strategy.
I've seen a few people saying they might VC Roger as well. Obviously up against Canberra, sort of. If he pulled out that 75 or whatever it was last week. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but it's again like Two-Man said, it's one of those more obscure options that are out there. So obviously people are considering it, so it's been said, but yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think they're doing that because it's the game before Hines, or it's probably their best option before Hines, rather than being their highest upside player. I think Roger is their highest upside player before their chosen captain. That's what I think. What's driving that.
I quite like, if my most likely scenario is C Hines, and I quite like the VC on Taylor May.
that is a good option. If anyone's pod bringing in Tungo, another great VC, because that Broncos side, I know they've been very good defensively, but they've lost a big chunk of their yardage in both with the ball and with the boot this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Nice to have a great chat about round 3. Look, I would not be surprised in the slightest if everything we've said is completely wrong, because we've seen that's the way that this season has tended to go so far. But yeah, we'll see how everything shakes out, I guess. Look, for anybody that's not in the Discord, jump in. We've obviously hinted at it today, but I'll reinforce it. It's a great place to have a chat about Supercoach, which is all what we want to do. We all spend too much time thinking about it anyway, so you might as well talk about it. So jump in. The links will be in the description, all the rest of it. Thank you for jumping on and joining tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you in the Discord.
Thanks, guys.